And so, to the best of your ability, listening to the words, processing the meanings of the words, using the perceptions which you have cultivated in your practice, that you must hold a certain level of your mind open to listening to the teachings of transcendent wisdom. And so, don't go away from this hall without having swum a little bit in the inner teachings. Yes, dear.
Rinpoche, you gave a teaching once where I think you talked about listening on the inside and listening on the outside.
Yes.
And actually being able to remember the teachings, the words of the teachings on the
Yes.
outside, as well as remember the inside. And I'm just curious because it almost sounds at this point like you're saying the words on the outside are just sort of preparation or introduction or inspiration to be listening on the inside.
No, it's a continuous process. You're listening to the words, thank you. You're listening to the words, you're processing the meanings, but you're actually hearing the inner teachings going on. So you could say that these are three levels that are going on simultaneously during the entire time of the teaching. That we are, that our inner being, or our actual being, depending upon practitioner being, actual being, inner being, depending upon the person, is experiencing. In other words, your inner being, I'm going to say, life process has been like a slave to the outer person. That that your inner being has become your, what they call, get up and go. Whether you have to be angry to be able to get up and go, to do things. Some people are inspired if they listen to music. Some people have to get upset about something before they can do something. It depends upon the person. That this get up and go is actually coming from your inner being. And this inner being has become compromised by the attitudes of the person on the outside. It's become in the service of that individual, but compromised because it no longer can be in its correct place and experiencing life from its correct position. Does that make sense? And so it's become, in some ways, it's become like prostituted for into a kind of crazy existence where it no longer can function in accordance with its own nature, but has to do the bidding of another. All right? And so, a strong word, but okay. And so, this inner being has to be, you have to let it go so that it can be in its own environment and experiencing the inner teachings which are happening in that environment. In other words, if you want to think of it this way, inner being is sitting in a different kind of room, and Rinpoche is sitting in a different kind of room right at this moment, and something is happening there which, if your inner being has become compromised, it can't be there. And so we relax so that inner being can be alive. We relax on the outside. Sometimes it's a matter of muscular tension. I don't want to do it. But you can in other words, it might be a little bit like this. People who do certain kinds of exercises, that you can do one exercise that might work with this muscle, or a leg muscle, or a shoulder muscle, and you do that kind of repetitive exercise. And after a while, you don't even have to do it, you can think it, that you can see yourself doing by thinking it. That there is a great deal of that thinking part of the muscular effort, which has to be, which requires awareness from inner being in order to do that. Now, some of these things are extremely healthy. Like, I don't know if you can experience, I can dance on the inside. I don't have to move. I can be doing all kinds of dances and swirling and things that I can't do in my physical body. I can do in that inner environment. I can do full lotus like that. This is not under the control. This is not under the control of the person, but it's like that. It's like that. The freedom of inner being. And then it can be more influenced by the inner teachings. So, our outer stresses that when we do relaxation, for example, relaxing the shoulder, relaxing the arms, etc., that what we want to do is we want to relax on the inside and we want to relax on the outside, but maintain enough alertness so that you don't fall asleep, or that you don't drift away, or that you don't drift into daydreaming. You know, many people have a hard time staying awake. I don't want to influence you this way. Staying awake during teachings, because as soon as they get into a special place, that their entire physiology and mental processes associate that kind of relaxation with sleep. And you've got to find the place where you are relaxed but not falling asleep. And this place, which I believe is called the hypnagogic state, is a kind of twilight place that you're not exactly here and you are not asleep, but you can move into another kind of very alert state. That is the meditation place you're looking for. And when you find that place, you are no longer bothered by bodily sensations, noises outside, unless they get too loud, of course, like that. Or thunder and 3.5-pound chihuahua, and it's thundering like that. She has to come into your bed. Doesn't matter where you are, you're going to come out because she's scared. And so, but this special place that in general you don't hear much, that your cares are gone, are completely gone. And when you're there a lot, you realize really how little the human realm really affects you in what's important to you. And so you let it go. You don't let, and this is where you don't let things get to you like before. This is how people say it. I've been meditating and now things don't get to me so much. Huh? And so these very normal processes are influenced by your meditation, and you are listening to the words because you need the words to process their meaning in you, as well as relaxing so that you can hear the inner teachings. But that process between hearing the words and process the meaning, we have to be very careful that our perceptions don't act like what they call a cow wrangler. You know, where they take the calf and they, bam, tie it around the neck, bam, knock that cow to the ground like that, lassoed, tied up. Now I understand. With the rope of wrong perceptions. That one understands perfectly the teachings. Not at all. And so this area, because of what I sometimes talking about, what do they call that kind of processing of information? Critical thinking. You know I'm not a fan of critical thinking. Not because I don't want you to be smart, but you've been trained in critical thinking, but it doesn't work for the Dharma. There's a much more receptive kind of thinking which is dependent upon having open spaces for perceptions which you do not yet possess. That it would be, it's very much like in a kindergarten teaching quantum physics to kindergartners. They will pick out certain words and they will make stories out of these words. For example, strings. Oh yeah, I had a string at home. I used it for tying on my finger, and they have a story about string. That's what they think string theory is. So this would be, because they have so many gaps in their perceptions regarding quantum physics that they can't really understand, but they can understand enough to make a story out of it, and it's meaningless. So critical thinking applied to spirituality is trying to have perceptions about what you don't have perceptions for, and making stories, spiritual stories, that you're going to have to unlearn, and not so easy. Yeah. And it makes it difficult to hear what's being said, because I may not be saying what you think I'm saying. Maybe I'm saying what I... No, never mind. We won't go there. Yes?
Rinpoche, there's a type of meditation called open awareness meditation. Is that
Sounds fun.
Is that preparatory for this kind
I have no idea what that means. Tell me what it means.
It's kind of a relaxed, objectless meditation. Seems like it creates.
What are you meditating on?
Sense of spaciousness.
So it's like a relaxation. It's a relaxation meditation. What do you learn if you were doing this while someone is speaking to you? Then how are you doing it?
I don't think they do it while people are
Okay, so it's nothing to do with this, because we're talking about teaching. The aspect here, wisdom through hearing, listening to the words and the meaning of the Dharma spoken by a spiritual teacher, and understanding the meaning of those words as they are spoken. So that may be a different kind of openness.
Okay. You were just talking about something that sounded to me like a deeper kind of receptivity and openness to...
It's a balance. I'm hearing the words, I'm processing the meaning, but I'm allowing the inner teachings to be absorbed by inner being without interfering and stress. Okay? Listening to Dharma teachings is actually a very active process, like that. And the last point here, understanding the meaning of those words as they are spoken. So many times, if you're just beginning or maybe advanced students, that you get caught in cogitating, well, that's a very interesting thing. I think I'll think about that for a while. Meanwhile, the teachings go on, and there's all kinds of different things that you miss because the mind is still over here and listening to one's own thoughts about the meaning, sort of processing. In other words, quick wisdom means that you're listening to the words, you're processing the meanings, and you're staying with the teachings. Otherwise, we're not in the ballpark for transcendent wisdom. We're doing something else, which is okay too. But since our subject here is transcendent wisdom, I thought we might go according to the plan. Huh? And so keeping up produces a kind of higher intelligence. Why? Because ordinary mind can't process as fast as Dharma is spoken, unless we talk this slow. Or unless there's about 10 minutes of speaking in a foreign language and then a great deal of discussion with the translator, and then the translator comes, then you've got plenty of time to do meditation between times like that. So, but since I'm continuously speaking in English, you have to. What happens is a certain part of your mind develops the skill to keep up, and your intelligence and the quickness of your intelligence begins to grow up in a new way. Because of your desire to keep up and to process as you're going, that you may not have time right now to process all of the meanings, but to the best of your ability, you do it on the spot. Actually, very much like your sadhana, you're speaking the words of the sadhana, and you've done the meditation on the various points, and so the meanings flow without the needs of words. Not to say that you're not saying the words of the sadhana, but you don't need to go through the mechanical and slow process of remembering what you understand about the meaning of this particular one. It happens like that. And this is what would be wonderful when you're listening to a Dharma teaching. You're hearing the words like this, you're processing, and you're moving right along. Like we're all in a stream together. Imagine all of us, each with our own little inner tube, bobbing along in a very peaceful, slow-moving river like that. And you don't want to get so far away that you can't hear what they're saying. Huh? Like that. So, this understanding the meaning of the words as they are spoken. Any questions? Anything you want to say? No? Okay. We'll go on. Yes, dear.
I have something, but I don't know if it's appropriate right now.
Go ahead.
Okay. Sometimes when I'm meditating,
Yes.
and I'm really in the flow of meditation, I'm suddenly aware that there is a story happening, and I'm not very aware of the story. And there's something with blah, 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 in the story that has nothing to do with anything. And I become
Yes.
aware, and then that distracts me, and then I have to go back to where I was. But I've always been curious, what is going on? Because it's
This
like
could be,
this
you
whole
could be,
made-up
you could be
thing.
tapping into the inner teachings which are coming to you.
And I'm putting words on it that.
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. The inner process is a very magical thing that's happening. That eventually, the outer mind can be invited into the inner process. That for a very long time, actual being, your deep nature being, that is inaccessible to you, is being guided and helped through the Dharma. Through the path of Dharma in the form of inner mentor and guidance of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And as you begin to grow, that interest grows in your development. And so, and so you can become a kind of location of interest, a location of interest. And so because you're meditating regularly and because you care and because things are moving along, that the Dharma path is filled with analogies, and so it could be that the analogies, which always come in the form of stories, are coming to you in the nighttime in the form of dreams and amazing experiences. I am so fortunate that I get to hear some of the nighttime activities and dreams that some of you have, which are very much in accordance with the trainings of Dharma that are happening. But they come to you in the form of stories that are happening. I can tell the difference if it's an ordinary dream, and I think you know the difference too. But at a certain point, that there could be a thinning of certain kinds of veils and barriers, where when you drop into a certain place, perhaps accidentally, because you didn't know how you did it, but you actually drop into a place, and all of a sudden you're listening to the analogies and the teaching analogies for you, especially for you, that you're hearing with your seemingly ordinary ears. Those are the inner teachings, but your awareness has dropped, but still mixed with ordinary mind. Anyway, it's a little bit complex. People who are not well, I'm going to say, or people who have strong inner critics, or people who are damaged and psychologically damaged, that the stories can become so strong that sometimes these stories, which are harmful, can come into their conscious mind as though they were hearing God telling them something or to hurt someone, etc. And so instead of being teaching that these are like mirror reflections of harmful attitudes, etc., and people like that are often afraid to meditate because they don't want to hear it. And even on an ordinary level, that some people, they aren't as serious a meditator as they could be, because they get into a certain place and then they start worrying, or they start thinking about difficulties they have, etc. That you have to get past these harmful stories. You have to let the harmful stories, what you want are these nice stories that are blessings and that are about higher development, etc. That these blessed stories are a gift from an inner process which is heading toward clarity. But again, there will be times when when you get mixed up in it, and you tell yourself things which are not nice. You know, you're not a good person, like that. And so you can't say, oh, this is always beneficial. That in fact you could be influencing, or your attitudes could be talking back at you. It's so complex, it's very difficult to even verbalize it here, but I hope I've explained it a little bit.
Well, that's helpful, because I'll be aware of it, and as soon as I become very aware, I have no memory of what the story was.
Yeah.
But it's...
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Yes, dear.
Well, before when you were talking about awareness of like going into a store and putting your awareness on some concentrated awareness, that I was thinking that when I'm working at the hospital,
Yes.
I have to, it's a very concentrated awareness. I have to be totally focused on that person in the bed, and I have
Yes.
to be aware of every alarm, and I have to be aware of the heart rhythm, and I have to
Yeah.
be, really focused on that.
Yes.
And then sometimes it's very hard when the night is over to let
Withdraw.
go,
Yes, that's
withdraw,
right.
and like even sometimes if I have to stop at a grocery store on the way home and I hear an alarm, I'm kind of,
Yes.
and it, how do you do,
I have, particularly about work, that I have suggested, I think it may have been here in Milwaukee, to create a prayer before you go into work. And it's your own personal prayer. And make this prayer saying, now my own personal issues I have to set aside, because now I have to go and give full value to the people I'm going to work with and to my employer, and to be as, what they call, issue-free as possible. And may those that come into contact with me today, may they benefit from my being with them, and and may it be so. Okay, like a little 4-line prayer that would be your own. And at the end of the day, that you say, now my work is finished, and now my time belongs to me. And so any issues that are from work, I leave at work, and now my life is returned to myself, to do what I wish to do, and to have the experiences that I'm choosing. That they no longer own my time. I let that down, I set that down, and now I get to have my own life again. may it be so. And I suggest sitting in the parking lot and doing this before walking into the work environment. Just take a couple of minutes both ways to, and this can act as kind of a decompression. And you can also, you know, say, now someone else has to take care of your issues and watch your monitors like that, because I belong to me and I choose now. Gelmo next.
When I do my Qigong, at the end of it, I always have a prayer. My piece says, may my energies return to me and their energies return to them.
Yes.
So there's a sense of
Separation.
separation.
Yeah, very good, very good. So you did compose a prayer. Hema.
Rinpoche, I recognize that you've talked about dialing before,
Yes,
and kind of different kinds of tuning and
yes, different vibrational.
movements.
Yes.
But is there, even when we're doing our work, our regular, our daily work, whether that be in the hospital or somewhere else, it seems to me that there's another way that we can, is there another way that we can hold our awareness that's not the ordinary way, but not the way we do on our meditation cushion, where that kind of awareness that we have doesn't get so, I mean, besides the prayer, it doesn't get so stuck.
Now we're getting some good questions going here. Very good, very good.
I mean, it seems like
So
there's another
the question itself contains the answer. That you know that there's another way, that behaving like you do in the workplace isn't the thing, or like giving too much, you know, like, for example, sometimes I might say, you know, how are you? And then the person will go on for, you know, a day and a half, and I want to say, think too much information. This is much more detail. You know, or somebody says, so-and-so had a baby, and then they want to describe all the process of having the baby. And really, all I wanted to know was, did they have the baby? All right, I didn't want to know any of the other things. And so too much information is usually the problem in ordinary life. That quite recently I made a comment on Facebook. I said that making very general statements, like when you're in a social environment, making very general statements so people aren't really sure what you mean, that they can sort of apply whatever it is that they want you to mean. And in this way, it opens up a lovely conversation. You don't have to tell everybody everything in full detail, because then they have nothing to do, when in fact your intention is to have a lovely exchange of conversation, and it goes back and forth. I don't quite understand what you mean. Oh, this is sort of what I mean. Is this really what you mean? Are you thinking this? And this actually is very, very good social conversation. But when you come at it like a nurse, well, the blood pressure is so and so, and this is this, and now you have to go in the kitchen, and I don't like that jacket you're wearing, and blah. This is way too much information for quality relationship. That if anything, we have an open meditation. It should be in our relationship with others. That you should be open enough so they don't exactly know what the heck you're talking about. But you're a very nice person, and you would benefit from their opinion. We want to, when in our social environment, we want to invite the opinions of others. That's what makes life fun. That we already know our own opinion. What we want to know is what other people's opinions are. And that we can discuss. We don't have to tell them what we think of their opinion. We don't have to change their opinion. They're our friend and our person we have a relationship with, because they do have different opinions. We just carry a mirror around. If we only wanted to know if we wanted everyone to agree with us, we just carry a mirror. We wouldn't care about what other people say. And there are a lot of people out there like that. But we don't want to be one of them. This is what makes us curious. This is what makes us dear to others. Because when you come into contact with someone, that you feel that they really care about what you have to say. And they're not just telling you stuff, but they're inviting interaction. And if you want to please people, don't tell them exactly what you think. Because they have their own opinions that they can apply on it, and then they think that you're so clever for understanding them. Yeah. I'm not saying I do this with my students, but I think in socializing, keeping it more open meditation like that. Who was it over here? Gelma, was it you had a hand up? Somebody? Oh yes, Dorothy.
I was just reflecting on what you were talking about, creating a prayer, and it made me think about how before I get out of bed in the morning, I make sure I set a strong intention. But this makes a lot of sense because each of those transitions, and I know there have been times either in meditation or when I'm just frustrated with an interaction with a student that I keep with me. Then I sometimes I stop and I think, well, they're certainly not thinking about me right now.
Yeah.
So maybe I should stop thinking about them as well. Wait until tomorrow when we have that chance
to bond in a better way. Yeah, sort of like what they call like a two wireless communications. When they're not shaking hands, then there's nothing that happens. What I'd like us to do is to take this last 10 minutes before lunch and grab paper and pencil, and let's create a prayer. Let's create 2 prayers. It doesn't have to be perfect now. 4 lines, I think works well. Not too complex. One that you will say before you will memorize. You have to memorize this before you go into your workplace, and another one for when you finished with work. This prayer may change. This prayer may change. Yes.
Is the intention of this prayer to alert yourself?
To alert yourself that now you're going into work. Now your time doesn't actually belong to yourself. Now your time belongs to another. To your work, to your project. If you work for yourself, you're still going to work and accomplishing. There's some function, otherwise there's no reason to go to work. And to have some kind of auspiciousness, during the day, and at the end, return that power of your life back to yourself. It can be very simple, like now I'm going to work. I have to do what my boss says. I mean, it doesn't have to be complicated, or it could be more complex. Even if you don't have a regular job, there are certain tasks which seem more like work than fun. You may want to include an affirmation of your spiritual life, thinking about whether, may everyone who sees me or who I interact with, may I benefit them in some way. It acts as kind of an alerting to your inner being through the prayer. And could I ask some of you to share your prayer? Maybe it would inspire us in ours. Yes, dear.
May I give my full attention to the patient's needs and to the staff. May I be of benefit to all I need. May I be alert to instruction and goodwill.
I would include a line that says, now I have to go to work. I think that's a really important part, especially in the morning, where your morning meditation is still percolating inside. Sometimes part of you doesn't understand that now it's time to go to work. Beginning meditators always have a certain time period where they feel like, I don't know why I'm here at work, all I want to be doing is meditating. So if I think you need that part of the prayer saying, this is it, folks, this is the defining moment. One more person. Yes.
When I get to work, I park in the farthest away parking spot.
Yes,
So
because they're young people who drive.
They're middle school, so there's always
Okay.
But I like that time to walk in.
Oh, very
so I
good.
was kind of visioning as I walk in.
Yes.
I don the cloak of work. I vow to focus exclusively on the needs of others. I vow to hold only positive thoughts and attitudes towards others. I vow to raise my awareness of the 6 perfections and in their assistance in my tasks today. I vow to listen and understand more than talk and explain.
Be careful that I would be careful with the word vow, because
Okay.
once you lose it, man, you broke your vow. So I would be careful in making a more realistic assessment of vow is like line in the sand. So don't demand too much for yourself, and let yourself know that now it's work time, and that like that. Although I love the prayer, I would personally be careful about what I promise. Like that. Let's go have lunch. Thank you, Gewa together. Gewa din yu tidak lama sangi du kune droa chikimalupalye salago parasho. We've had a very productive morning. We're on page 251 for those of you who are interested. Words of my perfect teacher. And we have discussed wisdom through hearing, and now wisdom through reflection. And Patru Rinpoche says this means not only listening to what the teacher has taught and understanding it, but subsequently reviewing it in your mind and clearly establishing the meaning through reflection, examination, and analysis, and asking questions about what you do not understand. This means that at the time of the teaching, that whoever you are, whatever skills that you have, whatever alive perceptions that you possess, you bring to the teaching hall. And those are the tools that you have brought. Those are the tools of receptivity that you have brought to the teaching hall in order to be able to understand. In other words, what do they say? Whatever you are, that's what you are, and that's what you got. All right? That we can't, even though we arise good motivation, that we have no magical other person that we are that is capable of understanding more than we are able to understand. And so while the teaching is going on, you're just simply doing the best you can to listen to the words, understand, and be receptive to the inner teachings. This is all that you can do. And as you practice longer, as you gain more development, this is the skill that is increased. That there are many people who, after studying Buddhism for a while and coming to a few teachings, don't come to teachings anymore. They want to sit home and meditate. And they don't have they lose this opportunity, this special opportunity for interaction on a one-to-one alive basis. Or they see that the subject of a particular teaching is like on compassion. And they think, oh, been there, done that. I know all about that kind of stuff. I've been to a lot of teachings on compassion. I don't need to hear about that anymore. However, since the inner teachings are always happen live, that you want to be there as much as possible to be able to experience that particular aspect, which is, if we're talking about transcendent wisdom, this is the transcendent wisdom dissemination time. And how marvelous, while your ordinary mind is involved in this interesting process of listening to the words and gaining the meaning based on the words, there's actually no time to do anything else. That is extremely busy. And then for those of you who take notes, this is a very good way to remember what happened during the teaching. Huh? Or if you're listening to now with the modern time, if you're listening to the CD, or better yet, watching the DVD like on your computer with your glasses. So you can be reviewing the teachings and there's Rinpoche talking like that. and you're just watching your DVD hooked up to your hip or whatever, inserted under the skin, however they're going to do it in the future, huh? Like that. And so this produces the cascade effect of the teachings, which means that now you have had an experience of being at a teaching, that you heard some things that were very interesting, but there wasn't time enough to really think about them. You need to have time to think about them. But if you have no idea what was said, then it's impossible. You have nothing to meditate on. So this wonderful miracle of memory, remembering the words and the meanings, is your entree to actually having the opportunity to reflect on the teachings. Very often, that if there's, for example, a series of teachings, or for example, summer retreat, which is coming up, that many people will wish to do retreat immediately following summer retreat or winter retreat, so that you can go through the process of reflecting upon the teachings which you've just received before they disappear into some kind of tangled chains of everyday life and etc. Are you with me? And so, the process that begins in the teaching hall is listening to the teaching and basically understanding. I mean, I am speaking English, right? I hope. And so you understood what I said at the time. Nobody looks massively confused. But later, and so you can say that you're understanding what I'm saying. However, the real understanding comes when you get a chance to exercise your own wisdom perceptions. For example, like in the sadhana, with the four great wishes, that there are certain states of mind which you arise. There's a kind of feeling state of mind, which is, for example, wishing for the happiness of others, wishing others to be free from suffering. That you have gained certain deeper understanding, which I'm going to call cultivated understanding, based on your meditation practice. These are not yet so firm in your mind, isn't that so? But when you're meditating and your people aren't bothering you, it's easier for you to think about the happiness for all sentient beings and freedom from suffering and other important points, other important states of mind, which you are working on cultivating. Does that make sense? And so you are in a different place where Rinpoche not talking at you a mile a minute, but in fact, this is where mind as teacher, your own mind as teacher, can be reminding you of what you already have understood, but don't have time to reactivate the cultivated state of mind while you're in the teaching hall. And so, for example, if you holding that state of mind, may all sentient beings have happiness, and the cause of happiness, something that has been extensively taught on, and that happens to be something that people get to be very good at. And so this state of mind, and now you open your teaching notes and you read something that you wrote. We'll go back and just read randomly something.
Understanding the meaning of those words as they are spoken. Many times you get caught in cogitating, meanwhile teachings are going on and you miss because the mind is still over here and listening to your own thoughts.
Okay, just as an example. And so you might read this from your notes, and then you think, and then you might try, I'm not saying do, but you might try an experiment holding the state of mind, may all sentient beings have happiness, and the cause of happiness. That internal state, not looking at all sentient beings, but that internal state of mind, and then you read it again, and then you just quietly cogitate on it, like turning it over and seeing how you feel about it. Something that people rarely give themselves the luxury to take the time about seeing how they feel about something. In other words, this is a kind of more fluid state of mind. You're not exactly invested in how you feel about it. You're open to new ideas. You're open to thinking about it differently. How would it be if I thought about the suffering of living beings? What if I thought about the presence of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas surrounding me and teaching me, taking different states of mind and using those as the basis for a cogitation meditation? Or you might take your daily life, for example, not having time during the teaching to have cogitation, which is basically what we're talking about, so I'm not sure if that's the perfect example to use. But for example, let's say yesterday you were in a store and you were about to purchase something and something happened. Someone said something, someone did something, and you responded in the spur of the moment without thinking. And had you been able to think more clearly, maybe you would have said something different. Maybe you would have been more kind. Maybe you would have been more penetrating. Maybe you came off like a wuss when you wanted to appear stronger. I don't know. But whatever happened, that you didn't have time because things were moving along very fast. And then these are the kinds of things that in the middle of the night you wake up and you think, oh, I know what I should have said to that person. And but everything goes by very quickly. And so having an opportunity to be able to reflect on the teachings is when your understandings become deeper. For example, you could have a quite good working knowledge about concentration or transcendent wisdom or whatever the subject is that's being discussed, and yet you heard something that added to your knowledge regarding this particular subject. And so adding that to the state of mind that already understands this subject pretty well can literally change your complete understanding about the subject. And so if we look at it as knowledge, as gathering knowledge and cogitating to be able to remember what was said, which is a part of this understanding, that you may not have the opportunity to go for the actual change, which is the change of your understanding. It's like this. That let's say your understanding is like a new construction building. That you have walls and you have ceilings and you have a kind of let's say a rough structure. Maybe there's no siding on the building, maybe there's no electricity running through there, but it sort of looks like a building. Huh? This, we could say, is a certain kind of knowledge, that you have this construct, shall we say. And this is a way that you are able to understand because it's contained within this construct. And so it has to have a certain amount of finishing, like a roof and walls and a floor, in order for you to be able to say you understand something at all. And so a construct has to be completed to a certain degree, so that you can use it as the basis for further learning. Okay, and so let's say this subject is let's say the subject is concentration, since that has been recently discussed. So you may have had certain ideas, and when you're thinking about concentration and understanding concentration, it's as though you went into this house, this building. You don't even know what the purpose of it is. It could be a factory, it could be a house or a store or whatever. But you go into a particular room and you see that it does have some paint on the walls anyway. And it's got maybe a carpet or some kind of raggy thing on the floor, and it's just barely tolerable as a place to go in and stay for a while. This is like someone who doesn't have very much knowledge, that their understanding is very small, but they have enough so that they could say, oh yeah, I know about the concentration. This would be the most thing that they could discuss about it. However, when the subject turns to concentration, and this bears on organization of knowledge as well, which is a very important part, that your organization, when the concentration is being discussed, it's as though you move into that room and you begin adding elements to your room. Now, you could be doing this superficially. You could find a pair of oriental lampshades and have them on the floor, and you could have some unrelated kind of decor, or just decor, nothing substantial, nothing to sit on, nothing to lie on, nothing that's useful, and but it's a kind of a hodgepodge, not even organized. The tables are on the ceiling, and the sofas are, lying upside down, and you've got this junk. It looks like some kind of a junk room. And this is when your understanding is so scrambled that it's all there, but you can't put it together. You don't know what's supposed to go where, how this room should look in order to make it a functioning room. And so when you're receiving teachings, that you would have to have some basis to work from. At least have the sofa sitting on its legs, and someplace where you could sit down and stay for a while. And this makes your cogitation meditation something meaningful, because in effect you're comfortable exploring this particular concept. If you're not, all of the junk and the ideas and all of the information and things that you collected on Facebook and on the internet and Twitter are just a bunch of stuff that is nothing cohesive. There's no meaningful decor, shall we say, and in that way, that you need to have time to organize your thinking, and you can't do it in a teaching. It's already too late. Even what I just said is too late. And so this luxury, whether you have to, go out in the garden and be able to sit and cogitate while you're weeding the garden, or perhaps you look like you're reading a book, but actually you're doing nothing at all. Maybe the bathtub is the best place to sit and cogitate. And time when no one is going to disturb you, and no one's going to disturb you, and you can think in peace and quiet. And so this thinking has to be meaningful around a particular subject, not just kind of relaxing and sort of letting the mind go wherever it wishes, but in fact a cogitation meditation is a kind of semi-directed thinking. In other words, if you are going to do cogitation meditation on a teaching that you've just received, you've got your notes there, these are the things that you're going to think about. Now, how you apply them in order to organize them is a very creative act. For example, as I was saying earlier about going into a store, that you have many examples coming from your daily life that can be applied, that you can see the practical application of a particular point. For example, if we're talking about concentration, you know, it's interesting. It's interesting that where was I? I might have been in the store out here last night. That I was walking around the store, and although there were many beautiful objects in this in the display, different kinds of stones and unusual things, that I tended to look in this band sort of right at eye level. That I didn't look at things on the lower shelf, and I didn't look at things that were on the walls on an upper level. And so anything that was going to catch my eye had to be right here in this band. And so when I was talking about concentration, I might think, oh yes, that must have been true, that my typical eyesight ran in a particular band, and although the alerting factors could have been directed toward things which were on the lower shelves or on the walls, that I was really limiting myself to things that occurred right within this narrow band of my perception. In other words, I couldn't allow things which were outside of my normal sphere to be added to my areas that I was willing to, how did I say it? Notice, that I was willing to notice. And so I remember yesterday that I suddenly looked up, and I noticed for the very first time things that were up a little bit higher on the walls, and I began to look at all of the different things that were placed higher on the walls around the entire sphere, as though something new had opened up for me. And this is my point, that using that example, I could see how easy it is to limit the view so that I am not understanding a broad spectrum of ideas, but in fact I am only willing under normal circumstances to be able to understand pretty much what I already know. And that would be an important point that I would want to think about. And then I might continue thinking, what is it about me that craves the familiar so strongly that I'm not willing to reach out, lift my eyes up, or lower my eyes to be able to take in more data to gain greater understanding? And then I might be harsh with myself and go, am I so stupid that I would think that like a baby, that I would only be able to entertain certain kinds of ideas? No, I'm not like that. I'm capable of knowing more. And I want to stretch. I want to stretch my eyes. I want to stretch my perceptions. And when I do this, the meaning from the teaching is brought into my own personal sphere. It's no longer about Buddhism. It's not about other people or all sentient beings. It's about making something of myself, of improving myself to the point, making myself do more. And this would be a cogitation meditation. And once you arrive at a certain kind of decision, where I might think, for example, I'm going to look more. I'm not saying that you have to look more, because there's many different points. There may be a point where you're looking too strongly and you need to make your vision more focused, noticing less and being more concentrated. So not the point that you have to do one or the other. The point is helping yourself develop in the areas which you are lacking. And that only comes in cogitation meditation. cogitation meditation is different from inner work because it can flow. It can flow from outer activities to relationships, as long as the general ideas remain within the parameters of the teaching information. So this is how we meditate. This is how we meditate on the teachings. That in general, we identify our strengths and weaknesses, and we possibly berate ourselves slightly or strongly for our lack of understanding, and we make strong determination to do more. I mean, just as general principles. Yes, Shay?
It sounds to me like there's not as much as of an element of reliance upon, like in a transformative, in those types of practices, there's that reliance on inner mentor.
That's
but
true.
It seems like it's not the case in
That's true.
cogitation.
That's true. That cogitation meditation, of course, is of many different kinds, but the one that I'm talking about is integrating. Another way you could say this is integrating the teachings into the mind stream. And the way we do that is by using the mind in the way it naturally wants to go, which is remembering personal experiences, remembering teachings of the past, and remembering attitudes and standards and ethics that we already possess. Does that make sense? And so, so I'll repeat this. Listening to what the teacher has taught and understanding it, but subsequently reviewing it in your mind and clearly establishing the meanings through reflection, examination, and analysis. This means that it is highly likely that listening to the teaching and listening to the words and putting them into and creating meanings that you might have misunderstood it at the time it was said. And cogitation and review of the teachings gives you a space to think, wait a minute, I thought that Rinpoche said this, but in fact, now looking at my notes, I don't think that's what she meant at all. And so you can change your mind about what you heard and correct your meanings right there. Yes?
It seems like, to go back to that lack of the reliance segment, that for example, somebody with a strong inner critic, if they're doing some types of these cogitation meditations, it seems like there's a lot of ways that it could go wrong for
That's right.
somebody. I don't know, it just seems almost dangerous.
Dangerous thinking. We must be very careful like that. Yes. Well, this is the danger, but the reward would be so good. One's inner critic. If you're working with a strong dysfunction of inner critic, then you must take. You don't have to tiptoe around inner critic. That one of the best things that you can do to the inner critic. I don't even know if I can do it because I had such a big lunch like that, is the pirate laugh. You put your hands on, either mentally or physically, you put your hands on your hip and you throw back your head and you go, ha 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 ha. And that, although that seems crazy, it's not crazy, but what happens is that you energetically break the spell. There is nothing more freeing than laughter to inner critic. Inner critic can't remain. Huh? Hey, let's practice our pirate laugh. Hands on hips, everybody. You got to really throw back your head. You know, just like the thing about a pirate laugh is that you don't care whether you're bad or good. You're just arrogant and knowing, like that. You know, I think of this. What is this? Pirates of the Caribbean. This very handsome pirate, and you're totally free. That the law is nothing to you because you're no. Because the pirate don't care. Pirate don't care. You can criticize a pirate. You can tell a pirate they're bad, they're good. They don't care. Like that. Anyway, that if you try to reason with the inner critic, you will lose. There is no reasoning. There is no reasoning because the inner critic uses you as the tool for its criticism. In other words, your hesitation, your fears, your anxieties are all fully apparent and used by the inner critic. That there's nothing that you can say. You can't say, "Be gone, inner critic. You're wrong. I'm a good person." This is why the pirate says, "The heck with you." And you just stick out your chest and throw your head back and just stop. And don't think that you can't be walking in a this is a nice thing about long-time Buddhist practitioners. Really, you don't give a damn. You don't give a damn anymore. Like that. You faced your own fears and your own anxieties so many times that what anybody says to you couldn't possibly matter. You know, and walking down the hallway in a what they call airplane platform place. What do they call? Airport, in an airport, and inner critic is starting to gnaw on you like that, and your anxieties, and just put down your suitcase and, and then go on. If you really feel bad about it, nobody knows who you are anyway. Just say, "Hey, there was some crazy person laughing there," and so after a while, you don't feel shy. You don't feel shy about anything. That you feel, "I've got nothing to hide. I've got nothing to hide." And the war between you and your inner critic you have to win. You have to win, and you can't win by reasoning with it. All right, like that. So, laughter, good. So. And particularly asking questions about what you do not understand. You know, asking a good question is almost impossible. And sometimes the really good questions you don't think are good questions, so you never bother asking them. And so there are the things that you do not understand that may be of a variety of reasons. The primary reason why you can't understand is because your perceptions do not support that understanding. It'd be like trying to fill a bottle with wine, only there's an invisible bottle there, all right? It's all gone quickly. Fine wine, like that, right on the ground. And so you have to become the container, and a good question ages like fine wine. And so definitely asking questions about what you don't understand. But if you don't get an answer that satisfies you, don't think that it's the problem of the teacher. That you go back to your meditation. There are many, many teachers who rarely answer the questions of students. I actually was famous for this in my previous. I would probably answer 1 out of 100 questions. And even then I was pretty sure they didn't. I would answer about 1 out of 100. That's right. So this life, if you don't think I answered all of your questions, to your satisfaction, by the way, that please remember that I have increased the number of questions I answered dramatically. Anyway, asking questions about what you don't understand. This is important. It is not enough just to suppose that you know or understand some particular subject, Patrul Rinpoche says. That certainly we all want to have confidence. And many people can put on a show of confidence. It doesn't matter whether they know anything or not. That the thing that they're best about is confidence. This doesn't help. In fact, in our Tibetan system, the error was in the other way, that people had too little confidence, that they actually knew things, but they were pretty sure they didn't know. But they knew it already. So they needed to have more confidence. For many Western people, you have too much confidence. That you don't know things. I'm just saying, talking in general, people out there, not people here. That you don't know anything, but you have confidence that you do. This doesn't help you know them. Probably didn't help the people who knew it and didn't have the confidence to be able to display it. Either way is wrong. So anyway, it's a balancing. It's a balancing of confidence. But he says it's not enough just to suppose you know or understand some particular subject. And this is his point. You should make absolutely sure that when the time comes to practice in solitude, you will be able to manage on your own without needing to ask anyone to clarify certain points. And so you have to have enough information, and you have to have reflected on this so that you're pretty sure that you know what you're doing. In my previous life, I was quite famous for saying, if you don't know what you're doing, don't do it. You've got to know what you're doing. And so, having attended teachings, listen to the words, process the meanings during the time of the teaching, being open to the inner teaching, reviewing the teachings afterwards, doing cogitation meditation, asking questions, or so that you really felt that you have a firm grounding in knowledge, so that you've organized your knowledge. So for example, this room regarding transcendent concentration, when you walk in there, maybe it's not perfect, but it's a certain amount of organization. And then your cogitation meditation, that you ceremoniously carry in this new object into that room, something you learned about, and you place it in that room, and suddenly the whole room changes. Everything that you knew about concentration has changed. That you walk into that room the next time, it's barely recognizable, because it had a cascading, this new knowledge had a cascading effect on your understanding. And we want to make sure that the danger in not understanding is that you could be bringing an object into that room which is causing you confusion. In other words, you thought you knew what concentration was, and now you brought something in, or you discovered something that belongs with your understanding that's actually wrong. It's a wrong view. And yet you brought it in there, and it has changed. It has had an effect on all of your other understandings about concentration. And this good place where we know without knowing, and all of these wonderful things that we could say, that we have achieved the state of not knowing. That state of not knowing does not come when you're trying to understand something. At first you have to understand it, then you can say that you achieve later a state of not knowing that's correct. But most people prematurely, when they understood something and now they don't understand it, they say, oh, this is good. This is actually an advancement in my view. I have achieved the state of non-knowing. like that. And so, I don't believe that in our old tradition, that people would receive a certain amount of teachings, and they would do recitation of scripture, and the scripture would be memorized, and so that they could refer to the scripture just from their own memory, and having received blessings and permissions to go into solitude to practice, and then they would be checked to see if that was the right thing to do, and then they would do solitary meditation. Not too many did. And, but I believe, we created a retreat center so that people could have a safe place to come for solitary meditation that would have certain protections. Being in the sacred environment, and I'm right there, I'm there to help. This is a safe way to do it. That many people want to, like, go away to their cabin, or go to India and wander around, or different kinds of ideas that people have about doing solitary meditation. If you are not prepared to do solitary meditation, then not good for your mind. You could wind up establishing all kinds of funny ideas about reality, and you're just, what happens is that your stories take over and your understandings have to sit in the sideline and can't interfere with the stories that are emerging, and people can go into a kind of dreamy sleepy state, and having lots and lots of stories that are coming about spiritual experiences, etc. That what you want to do is make your time meaningful, and solitary meditation not so easy to do in an environment like that. So, the third point is wisdom through meditation. Through meditation, as you gain practical experience of what you have understood intellectually, the true realization of the natural state develops in you without any mistakes. Certainty is born from within. Liberated from confining doubts and hesitations, you see the very face of the natural state. This means that after having gathered the elements, the knowledge, the inner teachings, the cogitations, that this produces in you a capacity to be able to actually sit for meditation, for extended periods of meditation. And these are the kinds of meditations that take steady, daily, without any other distractions, no distractions whatsoever, time to meditate seriously, and to erase the subtle errors. Releasing the manifest errors you can do through cogitation and through daily meditation. But the subtle errors and the subtle doubts, these require steady, daily meditation. This is when someone is ready for a 1-year or 3-year retreat. That's the time that this type of meditation can produce these extraordinary results. Right now, my students here and wherever they are in the process of preparing for the potential of being able to enter into serious meditation for a 1-year or 3-year retreat. That clearing away the what they call manifest, or the most difficult of the obstacles, require most of the effort. and arousing determination to do strong meditation requires a long time to become strong enough to do this kind of meditation. That you have to have, you know, in any good business, I think, that employers are looking for people who they call self-motivators or self-starters, that you don't require someone standing over you to make sure that the job gets done, that people don't have to check on you to see if you've manufactured 40 widgets in that hour, that you can do your job. In fact, you enjoy your job so much that you could just go there and do it. And at the end of the day, if someone was standing over your shoulder, that it would probably have, you wouldn't be able to get as much done as if people just left you alone so that you could get your work done. True? You know the difference. I mean, sometimes there may be something, for example, like I make bread. I like to make bread. But when I'm making bread, if people come into the kitchen while I'm trying to count out cups of this and trying to remember whether I put salt or whether I put the oil in, people want to talk to me, I can't get things done. I'm very much self-starter when it comes to making bread. And so there are certain things that you may do where you're completely self-starter. It's very interesting that you can go on and on and on. And there are other things which are so, that you're so little interested in that you may have to call your friends to ask them to give you some motivation so that you can get the job done. Or you have to put on the iPod and listen to music so to keep you going, distracting yourself enough so that you can get your work done. Huh? This is in meditation. If you need to, if you're not a self-starter in meditation, you are definitely not ready for long retreat. And not only self-starter for 2 or 3 days, we practice, even in our long retreats, that we practice developing a steadiness in our meditation so that we crave time as a self-starter in our meditation practice. That we want to practice and we want to have extended periods of time alone to do our work and like that. So this, when we arrive at that point, that the reason why we're self-starter is because we finally know what we're doing. And if you don't have that, it's because you're still not quite sure what it is you're doing, and that's why we train. There is no magic answer that, now I know, now I understand. That the understanding comes gradually or in bits and pieces and starts and stops, and then eventually you develop competence. This is the person who is capable of serious meditation, all right? So, we'll talk a little bit about this after a little bit, but right now, since we're talking about wisdom, that our Tibetan Buddhism and Indian Buddhism has a doable method of presenting important elements of our practice. Some of the important elements that we need to have in order to become awakened is compassion, which is personified by Chenrezig, the Buddha of compassion. Vajrasattva, which by the way in this coming weekend is our Midwest retreat. It's going to be on Vajrasattva, who's the Buddha of purification, a very important aspect. And because it's not so easy to think about these things all together, that we consider that Manjushri, who is the Buddha of compassion, the Buddha of wisdom, personifies the in one way, I want to think cleverness, a kind of cleverness, a kind of being able to mentally overcome the obstacles, being able to, you know, like zoom in and out of traffic, getting past the obstacles that remain, to be able to arrive at a certain destination where the awakening process occurs. And so Manjushri is the epitome of the state of wisdom, which is not just ordinary wisdom or knowledge, but in fact the epitome of this transcendent wisdom which we're speaking about now. And so fully accomplished in concentration, as well as the other perfections, that the aspect of wisdom is lifted to a higher valuation. And then that higher valuation is lifted, that it is lifted again to another higher valuation. And so these lofty states of mind of wisdom are not reachable with human legs and human arms or airplanes or any kind of machinery, or like one of those meditation machines that say meditate like a monk, like that. You put on these special glasses. And I was offended. Anyway, that these exalted states of wisdom are the result of a huge amount of effort to be able to discover the actual reality. Once discovered, there is nothing simpler in the entire universe than wisdom. But until you get it, there is nothing more complicated. And so, depending upon which side of the veil you're standing on, that wisdom has to be based upon a relationship with wisdom. And so we think, I have a friend. I am not without resources. That my good friend and mentor is the Buddha of wisdom himself, Manjushri. And so from school children who invoke Manjushri to get good grades in school, as well as advanced students, Geshe students, Manjushri is their best friend. And to advanced meditators who consider Manjushri to be the primary warrior against the delusions, the remaining delusions. And so from the heroic aspect of Manjushri, as the destroyer of what prevents wisdom from arising naturally, to the view of school children who want to have like a big strong man, that Manjushri is their strongman buddy, like that. So wherever you're coming from in your view of Manjushri, that Manjushri has an uplifting effect, as well as a cautionary side, which is the sword of wisdom, the flaming sword of wisdom, which means that something has to go. And so when we think of our ignorance or our innate view or our tangled web of chains or whatever it is, a good idea to invite Manjushri to come and just cut it to pieces. All right? This is not the gentle wisdom aspect. That the important aspect of Manjushri is that it cuts through definitively, whether you're talking about logic or whether you're talking about the base of ignorance, the root of ignorance, that you want to experience. You want to experience that your delusions are gone. All right? So, how many of you have never received the mantra of Manjushri? Manjushri. All right, a good number of you. And so, please hold your hands together and we'll take refuge. Repeat after me. With discrimination, I go for refuge. Seeking freedom, I offer all that I was. Am and will be. For the result, that will not decay. I take responsibility for my action from now on, and take great joy in joining the family of the Buddha. I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. And now we remembering that we are receiving this name empowerment with the motivation to become awakened, to become enlightened. For the benefit of all, we recite the second time, with discrimination. I go for refuge. Seeking freedom. I offer all that I was. Am and will be. For the result, that will not decay. I take responsibility for my actions from now on, and take great joy in joining the family of the Buddha. I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. And now for the third and final recitation, please rise up inside in your highest altruistic form, and that is the one who will recite the third and final repetition of refuge. With discrimination, I go for refuge. Seeking freedom, I offer all that I was. Am and will be. For the result, that will not decay. I take responsibility for my action from now on, and take great joy in joining the family of the Buddha. I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. Very good. Please recite after me. The mantra of Manjushri is no different than Manjushri himself. Please hold your hands together and repeat after me. Om, A, Ra, Pa, Sa, Na, Di. Om, A, Ra, Pa, Sa, Na, Di. Om, A, Ra, Pa, Sa, Na. Very good. If you are this Omarapatsana, just repeat a few. Omarapatsana, Omarapatsana, Now, this di is the seed syllable of it's the essence seed syllable of the mantra of Manjushri. And if you ever want to check and see where your mind is at, if you do this di 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 di, if it's clear and long and precise, your mind is fairly clear. If you're sloppy and can't do it, chances are your mind is not very steady or straight at that time. So one way you want to check your mind, you do Omarapatsana di, Omarapatsana di, Omarapatsana di 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 di. I can do it for a long time, so I'm not going to bore you. And so this another tool that you can take for checking your own mind, especially when you want to be mentally acute. And so I can see that our mental acuity is sliding down and needing coffee. Let's have coffee. Each group has a different discussion topic, and please make sure that everyone has an opportunity to give their opinion. It doesn't have to be like something from scripture or anything so amazingly important. So one person is the scribe, and please discuss this. You've got we're going to discuss for about
50% of the necessary equipment.
I think I see.
We're going to discuss for about 20 minutes, and then we're going to regather And one person will present your group's findings, yes.
Do we focus on the wisdoms that were in, that you talked about today, that are in this book?
Not necessarily, what is your, about six perfections?
No, what is the best wisdom for a beginner to focus on?
You do the best you can. You just, if you've got a discussion topic that is a little bit open so that people can present all different kinds of ideas. All right. And so we are asking this group over here to please begin by presenting.
So
Ms. Sandler, please.
our question was, how does Sangha support the practice of the 6 professions? And we started out with how we're able to practice with each other, and we can bounce off different ideas that we have and have Dharma discussions to increase our understanding of the 6 perfections, and to encourage each other to keep on going with our practice, because we're not perfect, and we need that encouragement from each other. We gain inspiration. That was another piece of our discussion, was we gain inspiration from the monastics who help to model the 6 perfections, and even though they're not yet perfected, we look to them for inspiration. We also look to the enlightened Sangha as our role models, such as
Transcendent, mostly it's the transcendent.
transcendent
Sangha.
Sangha. And we acknowledge that Sangha also help us to learn the 6 or practice 6 perfections through their energetic example, and that they create a safe space in which we can be imperfect in our practice. The Sangha also help to create a platform to dig deep into the nature of patience through the special hospice training that we've been given. Sangha also provide the opportunity. Without Sangha, we would not have the opportunity to go on retreat and to receive the teachings from Rinpoche, and to listen to DVDs that have been produced. All of that would not be possible without the Sangha. And it's also through the joyful efforts and generosity of past Sangha who have continued the teachings throughout, through their efforts, the Dharma and the opportunity for practicing the 6 perfections has now become available in our own lives. Without them, we would not be capable and have the support to practice the 6 perfections.
So you're saying the continuity of the Sangha. That's a very good point. That without the continuity of the past Sangha, that our present day Sangha would not exist. That it would be a broken transmission. And so Sangha, our present day Sangha, is a reflection of the continuity of that important. And very good, thank you. A lot of interesting thoughts and well thought out. Thank you. Next group. I just whoever is. Yes.
Our question was, what is the generosity of concentration? And we talked about different types of motivation that are behind concentration, benefiting, especially benefiting others. So motivation or intention of engaging concentration to be of benefit, whether it be gaining clarity, or whether it's to develop the inner process, or if it's like an artist who is making and creating work of art for others' benefit, of others' enjoyment, or for their own development. We talked about that concentration, gathering the skill of concentration helps us become better listeners, so that we're more generous in our listening with others, and more attentive, so that when we're listening to others, we're not so easily distracted.
Speaking of distracted, could you repeat the question?
What is the generosity of concentration?
Generosity, okay.
The other is inner generosity of our concentration is in our development of our inner process, being generous to ourselves and in our development towards enlightenment. It could be, generosity could be a lot of concentration on an ordinary thing that needs to get done, and to do it for the benefit of others and also to not harm. And we talked about fearlessness, and bodhisattva's fearlessness, and we're not quite sure what we're talking about, but but it was fearlessness of concentration. And of bringing gathering different elements together to create a benefit, and that could be a very fearless and courageous activity.
Another point might be to think about the generosity of all sentient beings and how it's presented all of these opportunities over a great length of time. That's okay. All of the opportunities over a great length of time that has created the opportunity for individuals to enter into concentration. And so the generosity, not just generosity of concentration, but also generosity from all living beings, which has permitted individuals to really rise like cream to the top. Maybe all sentient beings aren't ready, but individuals will achieve greatness like that.
And we talked about it, that generosity of concentration is the opposite of multitasking.
Very good, thank you.
Multitasking.
Very good.
Which
Next.
means it's the generosity of efficiency.
What did you say?
Which means it's the generosity of efficiency.
Yes.
Yes, that's right.
So our question was, what is enthusiastic effort of wisdom? And we just pulled forward 3 key points to share. First thought was that enthusiastic effort of wisdom is skillful means. And so for a fuller understanding of that, I would refer you to either the winter retreat teachings or the upcoming summer retreat teachings on skillful means. But we just talked briefly about how when you practice something over and over again, it becomes so ingrained in you that it just arises, and that you don't have to think about it, cultivate it, but it's just part of your nature. As a beginning slice of this broad topic of skillful means. Second point we wanted to bring forward was that wisdom is always reaching out to us. It never gives up. It's always trying different strategies, and that will remain until all sentient beings are in perfection. And so that's its diligence.
So this would bear upon an idea that wisdom never becomes discouraged.
Right.
Or was that one of your points?
No, that's
that wisdom
point,
never
yes.
becomes discouraged. That if it's thwarted from its target of arising wisdom in others, that it doesn't give up and say this must be too difficult or this is impossible. Wisdom never says it's impossible. It some things just take longer.
And we did speak about how we appreciated that it keeps working with us through all of our obstacles and our lack of hearing and our lack of, that it feels like it's not, it never gives up on us. And then the third point we wanted to bring forward is that as we listen to the teachings, reflect and meditate on the teachings, that joyful effort arises in us, and it feels like wisdom arises, and that then becomes the basis for our practice and for our effort. So it's like it supports us as this basis, this wisdom arising, that then makes it much easier or almost effortless to continue.
And so because wisdom is something that is unknown, that what is known is how to generate enthusiastic effort, and the elements of enthusiastic effort are threaded throughout ordinary life, and so you could use your own life as a model for being able to do something with determination and with enthusiastic effort, even though you're not sure of what the eventual outcome is. You know how to make effort, and so even though you don't know what wisdom is, that you do know how to make enthusiastic effort, and if you make prayers toward awakening wisdom, that it definitely will have result.
Rinpoche, is it true? I mean, this is kind of one of the questions that I had with this conversation, but is it true that as wisdom sort of wakes up inside, you become connected or wakes up inside you?
Yes.
It seems like there's almost this enlivenment of enthusiasm
Yes.
when that happens. Like suddenly your enthusiasm becomes more real.
It seems doable. Yes, and and when energy is freed up from the delusions, that energy really comes into enthusiastic effort. That it's very easy to corral that energy into enthusiastic effort. This is one reason why beginners in Buddhism are all enthusiasm, because they freed up a good deal of preliminary energies, and they just go, and wanting to learn and wanting to do. Whereas people who have been practicing for a very long time, that their enthusiastic effort is more controlled and more directed and focused. But beginners, it's everything. They want to learn everything and do everything right now, which is okay too. That's the nature of it. Yes. Very good. Thank you. I think we have one more.
Two more.
Two more.
Our group head.
Please stand up.
What is the best wisdom for a beginner to focus on? And coming off of what you were just saying, because I would say that compared to lifetime meditators, we're all pretty much still beginners. And we all probably have that feeling where we want to do everything. But when people come to you and ask questions, your main thing, Rinpoche, is steady daily practice. And that kind of, I don't know if it calms that down, because I think a lot of us still have that feeling that we want to do everything. But actually, we had an advantage because all of us had been even beginners at one point. And Zhao here was sharing with us that she had, I think it was the Shambhala Center, and they told her to just do practice, but it was more of a focusing on the breath meditation. So that steady daily practice didn't really help in keeping that. It needed a foundation. So we thought that what we talked about in Words of My Perfect Teacher, with the wisdom through hearing and the inspiration that you get for coming to the teachings, was a pretty valuable source of wisdom for a beginner, just to
That's something new to think about.
to cogitate on. But one thing that we didn't discuss from Words of My Perfect Teacher, I don't think in this past 2 days, might have been before, is that, and it's something that's fairly unique to this Sangha, is that everybody is really willing to discuss and share, and even this session that we just had right now is a really good source for, source of wisdom, I guess, for
Good point,
the beginner,
good point.
to have these sounding boards.
Yes.
So I think texting.
That's why they have email and Skype.
Facebook.
And Facebook.
Section in terms of respecting the wisdom of others.
Very
I think
good.
another term is community, the wisdom of community.
Yes. The wisdom of peers.
Yeah.
Yes, very good.
And that's me.
Very good, very nice. Is there one more? Very good. Behind you is right here.
Ours was, how does concentration support wisdom? And so we talked about concentration is focus and awareness. Concentration is like a step toward cogitation. Concentration promotes alertness and fosters inner wisdom.
How does it promote alertness?
By focusing, concentration, alertness. If I'm really concentrating,
Yes.
okay, I'm alert to what I'm concentrating on to look at.
So it maybe through the destruction of distractions. The concentration
Yes,
destroys
yes.
distractions.
That's coming.
Oh, sorry.
Concentration promotes wisdom when we stay alert and aware in the now moment. Concentration also aids in eliminating distractions that one encounters. And then concentration supports wisdom by providing a platform for wisdom to arise.
Very good point.
Yeah. And then silent concentration promotes wisdom by eliminating distractions and quieting the mind. And then one can vary in scope of concentration. It's your example that you used from a single point of just focusing to a more expanded view.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I would like to ask something.
Go ahead.
I just have one more point, but you can ask your question first because I need to make the last point last.
Go ahead.
Okay, then the last point is, concentration supports wisdom because I say so. And
Very good. Very good. And I think that concentration supports wisdom because it becomes wisdom's tool. That once wisdom is beginning to arise, it picks up concentration as its major tool. Okay? Yes.
Rinpoche, I feel that even after hearing your commentary, I feel like we're strongly, that we might be sort of culturally indoctrinated to think that concentration is a tense effort.
Yes.
Because even when I hear you say it, I feel a little uneasy inside, like I'm getting this message I should be tense and really working at
Yeah.
it. But I know
Straining.
that's not the case.
Yes.
But
Yes,
I still
I
feel
agree.
that way.
I agree. That I have never taught concentration. The very thing which is the focus of many Buddhist practices, I have never taught people how to concentrate, because I believe that concentration arises when the obstacles to concentration are gone. Then concentration arises naturally, without stress, without straining, without squeezing on the mind. Otherwise, concentration is all squeezing on the mind, and no benefit comes. Only a kind of like overfilling a balloon, and this kind of pressurization. And I don't believe that's the beneficial way to do it. Concentration needs to be effortless. And as we did our brief meditation last night, where we were talking about the subconscious mind and just simply allowing the emanation of the mind, the arisal of the ordinary mind, to happen from its base rather than living in the superficial level of mind, that we see how superficial mind arises through uncontaminated superficial mind, uncontaminated by influences, causes, conditions, karma, all of that, only arising from subtle mind, which is uncontaminated. This is the natural calm, which is the tool of wisdom. Squeezing the mind never works. It just makes you weird. Yeah. If we think that concentration, in a way you could be calling it thinking clearly. And then you realize that the environment in which the environment in which this subtle mind is arising into ordinary mind, that you protect the parameters like that, so that you get an uncontaminated view. Yes. Any questions you want to ask any of the groups, or what comments do you have? Yes.
We have one more person.
Oh. Who?
It was fine. Or did they all go?
Yeah, I think that was fine. Okay. So now what I'd like to do in our remaining time is I would like us to do silent meditation. But before that, we'll do some, for those of you who have knowledge, let's do a couple of rounds of Manjushri mantra, and then we'll recite the DVD, and then silent meditation. Just very calm. Think about the subtle concentration, which is natural in you as long as you step aside and allow it to arise naturally. Okay? Having first eliminated all your doubts through hearing and reflection, you come to the practical experience of meditation and see everything as empty forms without any substantiality, as in the 8 similes of illusion. As in a dream, all the external objects perceived with the 5 senses are not there, but appear through delusion. As in a magic show, things are made to appear by a temporary conjunction of causes, circumstances, and connections. As in a visual aberration, things appear to be there, yet there is nothing. As in a mirage, things appear, but are not real. As in an echo, things can be perceived, but there is nothing there, either inside or outside. As in a city of Gandharvas, there is neither a dwelling nor anyone to dwell. As in a reflection, things appear, but have no reality of their own. As in a city created by magic, there are all sorts of appearances, but they are not really there. Seeing all the objects of your perceptions in this way, you come to understand that all these appearances are false by their very nature. When you look into the nature of the subject that perceives them, the mind, those objects that appear to it do not stop appearing, but the concepts that take them as having any true existence subsides. To leave the mind in the realization of the nature of reality, empty yet clear like the sky, is transcendent wisdom. Gewa dinu tu dak lama sangitu kune dro chikimalupa.